Welcome to this session with Nystrom Education. We are delighted that you are able to be with us. Nystrom Education is the largest producers of globes and atlases in the country, and we are delighted that you've joined us for our Exploring Where and Why series. Today we have Ms. Phyllis Thomas, who is going to be our presenter, and we are delighted to have Phyllis with us. I'm Pam Gothard, your Professional Learning Director. So Phyllis, thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us about the flexibility of Exploring Where and Why. I would like to just turn the session over to you now. And again, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Pam. I'm excited to share. As Pam said, my name is Phyllis Thomas, and I recently retired from the Madison County school system, and I taught kindergarten or second grade for 25 years. And the last few years of my teaching career, I had the privilege to work with Pam and a group of teachers from throughout the state of Alabama in a program called TADA, which stands for Teachers Actively Discovering American History. Now, one of the great benefits of this program was it allowed me to travel to places such as New York, Boston, and Washington, D.C., and to learn about our country's history in a very hands-on and personal way. And so you will hear me speak a lot about the hands-on approach today because I think that's crucial for understanding. I enjoyed it very much and I learned a lot from my travels. One of the things that I was able to do through TADA was to be a presenter as well as attend several social studies conferences. And I first saw and fell in love with the Nystrom products during one of these conferences. So I'm excited to share one of these amazing products with you today. So the Nystrom's hands-on programs, the title today is I'm going to show how it provides flexibility, and the K through 3 program is called Exploring Where and Why. And I will refer to that often as EWW. And it is a hands-on format for teaching social study skills and concepts to all of your students. And that's what I think makes it so great, is it addresses all learning styles, allowing for every student within your classroom to be successful. So, and it's designed to be both student and teacher friendly. And I find that to be so. And as I go through the program, I hope to show you how friendly it is for you as a teacher to use in some ways that you can use it in your classroom. Exploring Where and Why is a cross-curricular approach, and it will support the Common Core state standards for language arts and integrate all the content areas. The lessons in the EWW program reinforce reading, writing, math, science, and a social studies context, providing crucial background knowledge. So a little bit more about what Exploring Where and Why is. Again, I said it's a program for grades K through 3. It offers a variety of resources to reinforce the teaching of social studies. This is cross-curricular, it is hands-on, and it is print-rich. So all of these things help just to make it a wonderful resource to use in your social studies curriculum, as well as providing lots of cooperative learning activities and critical thinking activities. So you heard me say that one of the things I loved as I was learning more about social studies through TADA was the hands-on experiences that I received. So the hands-on approach is very important to the EWW program, and it will allow you to teach students the way that they learn best, and that is hands-on. Hands-on teaching means minds-on learning. The components of EWW provide a variety of materials that allow you to engage all of your students actively, and that they can take ownership of what they are learning and really truly internalize and remember the concepts taught. So let's take a look at the EWW components and how they will work best for you. Now today I'm going to share the components for the grade 2 kit, but all of you should have received a kit that has similar products to use or components. So you have a teacher's guide, desk maps, a literacy library, wall maps, markers, activity globes, Nystronaut atlases, and community models. So I'm going to break these down a little bit as we go along and just show you some ways to use these flexibly within your classroom. If we start in the teacher's guide, each edition at the beginning has a section called Celebrating the Holidays, and I love how it's laid out for you from January through December, and it's dated, and through that you will see a monthly calendar, not only for our country, but holidays celebrated around the world that can be incorporated into your social studies curriculum that will just bring in that history and multicultural approach to your social studies units, as well as some significant historical figures. And those can just be incorporated as you can throughout that month. Also in your teacher's edition, you will see the EWW standards and themes. EWW was very much teacher influence, so classroom teachers just like you and they were directly involved in the development of EWW, and it's designed to cover the 10 thematic strands as defined by the National Council for Social Studies, and these address culture, history, geography, civics, economics, using a variety of, and this is important to me, key age-appropriate activities. We want our students to be learning in a way that's appropriate for them and they feel comfortable with. So geography is key to teaching social studies. The teaching of geography is addressed in the 5 themes of location, place, relationships within place, movement, and regions. Using EWW is just a great way to make sure that you are teaching your students in a fun, engaging way while still covering all of your state requirements. So whatever grade you're in, you can take a look at a glance and just see under each strand what you will be covering and how it fits into your state's curriculum guide and framework. I like to use this at the beginning of every school year to kind of help me scope and sequence my year. So I would use this format from the teacher's guide, and I would just see the skills that I needed to cover, and I would plug those in where I needed them and pull those lessons. So they're divided among the thematic strands of civics, culture, economics, geography, history, interdisciplinary skills. So just a great resource to use that will help you meet your state standards. As we take a look at your teacher's guide a little bit closer, you're just going to see what a valuable resource it is for using the whole year. It's set up in a very user-friendly way. Each unit has a tabbed divider that gives a summary of the unit and the lessons that are included within the unit, and also a time frame for completion. So I love how immediately I have some flexibility there in seeing the unit, how many lessons, how many might work for me, the length of time that I have to cover. So just helped me to quickly prepare my scope and sequence for the year. There's also a family update letter that's included that you can just run off and send home to inform your parents about what you were doing with EWW and maintain that positive home and school connection. And also, as you see on this tabbed area, there's a literature link there that will give you some additional suggestions for reading material that you might want to pull just to help enrich your social studies curriculum. And I would get those from my school library, my local library. You could add those to your family letter and have parents send them in. And that can be used for whole group read-alouds or independent reading. Okay. As we take a look at all of the fabulous student materials, you're just getting an abundance of supplies that you can use. 60 desk maps, 30 U.S. and world, 30 community, 2 wall maps that have 2 different views of the community, and then 6 activity globes. And they are all just beautifully designed. They're large, laminated for durability. The desk maps are 17 by 11, and they are double-sided, easy to use, that can cover a variety of concepts, whether local communities or near and far. The wall maps are 50 by 33 and they match the desk maps, and that gives you the flexibility that you can teach whole group using your wall map or in small group using your desk maps. The activity globes are so colorful and engaging, the students are just drawn to them and want to use them. They're engaging for the K through 3 learner, and they start out just with the basic land water markings, and then they increase to adding the continents and the countries. And all of the maps and globes are markable. Your kit will come with the 34 wide-tipped water-soluble markers. They're easy to use and clean with just a damp cloth. So your students will quickly take ownership of these materials and want to take care of them and reuse them over and over again. Some of the additional materials that you have are the 6 community models, and they all come on the cart, so it makes it easy to store. They're large 19 by 13 3D representations, and they can be used for the students to build their own communities, or you can show how water flows from highland to lowland, and the students just are actively participating in the learning process and developing those critical thinking skills because they are manipulating and producing with the models. One of the things that I just really love about this EWW program is just all of the reading support materials that come with the program. So there are 15 Astronaut atlases, and these are just a great resource. They add lots of multicultural dimension to your lesson. The photos are beautiful, colorful, engaging for the students. Some of the pages have actual photographs, and some are from past and present. That's great for you to use for comparison. The text is easy to read and just works well for partner grouping or whole group instruction. The atlases, since you have 15 of them, if you have more than 15 students in your classroom, then you might be thinking, well, how can I make this work for me? They work great for partnering your students, and they can do read-alouds together, or you could use the atlases, one per group of 3 to 4 students, as a resource to complete a project or a report, or used in a whole group discussion where you read from the atlas and then ask critical thinking questions of your students. So you can use those for math lessons by, as you read through the atlas, then stopping to say, if you're reading about the community helpers, what is your favorite community helper, and do a graph. So just lots of flexible grouping activities that you can use for your atlases. Maybe give the 3 to 4 students one of the atlases and have them complete a project by listing a community helper that they learn about and using the atlas together as a team to complete a report, or to use as a center for them to read independently. So just lots of great uses for the atlases. The literacy library is one of my favorite components, and each grade level has 12 age-appropriate books to support their reading. It comes in its own kit, its own little bag. The 12 books are multiple genres for reading support, and it comes with its own teacher's guide. So the books can be used in multiple lessons, not just in one lesson and then put away. The teacher's guide is going to show you all throughout the curriculum and the social studies units how you can revisit that book and use it in different ways. So in the next few slides, I'm going to take one of the books that's in the 2nd grade kit and just show you multiple ways that you could use it throughout your curriculum. Okay. So as you're using your books, you might read the title and ask them to predict what the story will be about. You might act out one of the vocabulary that you go over in your lesson with and find them in your story. Do repeated readings of one book, checking for details, or do a read aloud and then ask critical thinking questions to check for comprehension. Okay, as I said, I'm going to show you using one of the books in the 2nd grade literacy library, and it is called Alejandro's Gift. And so there are lots of cross-curricular activities that you can do just using this one book. For reading, you might choose a phonics skill such as the CH digraph and find the words that, and make a chart of all of those words that you read. You could assign different paragraphs to students and read for fluency. You could, as I said before, do a read aloud and check for comprehension by having the students complete a story map. And on the EWW.net, which I will discuss a little bit later, there are lots of graphic organizers that you could print off and use with the books. For writing, have them write about giving and receiving gifts. And then in social studies, a great water conservation activity. In geography, use your wall or your desk maps to locate the setting of the book, which is one thing that I love to do all throughout the year, was just to have a big wall map up, and as I read a story, locate the setting on the map and compare previous settings that we had learned about. So just another way to use your wall map. Beyond the book, when you're finished with it, have students use it in a center to retell the story to each other or to act out an event, and have the student guess which part of the story that they're talking about. Locate the places on a map, draw their favorite scene or illustrate a title page for the book, create a bookmark of a favorite scene, or learn words in other languages. And Alejandro's gift, lends itself obviously to learning some Spanish words that are present in the book. So these are just ways to engage your students and to use this literacy library for more than just one reading. It has multiple uses. I used to love to have guest readers come into my classroom and share the literature. Our students just love that too. So that could be a way to use the books. Also have some of your older students come in and read to your younger students. And I like to do what was called the book in a bag, and send home some of the books with a family activity, just so the parents would be familiar with what we were reading and studying, and maybe give them a social studies related activity to complete, and then share the book and pass the bags around. So those are some, these are some great ideas for just using your literacy library in a multitude of ways. So I'm going to stop there and take just a moment. I know we've gone over a lot of material, and at this time, if you have any questions, if you would like to just use your chat box on the right there and jot them down, I'll be happy to try to answer them. Okay, I see that there are no questions at this time, so I will just continue, and we'll have a chance at the end, and maybe you think of something that you wanted to ask and did not, and you'll have another opportunity to do that. All right, so we're going to take a look at the different themes within your social studies curriculum. This, again, is the second grade teacher's edition. And I love how when you open it up and you look, you can see all of your units that you could use for the whole year, and based on your scope and sequence, that they're going to cover all of your state standards in your course of study if you teach these units. I love the flexibility here of being able to, just because it says Unit 1, know that I don't necessarily have to start at Unit 1 to make this program work for me, that I have the flexibility to move them around and teach them at a time that works for me. So let's just take a closer look at these for second grade. It has 6 things covering communities, community needs and wants, exploring maps and globes, exploring our country and state, our country's government and history, and looking at our world. And each unit is designed to meet the state standards for second grade. So we're going to take a look at Unit 1 that was looking at communities, and just see how you could make that unit work for you. So in looking at Unit 1, Communities, I saw that there were 4 lessons, and each lesson had several activities listed for each one. So the complete unit would take me quite a while to cover. So I may decide that at this time I don't have time to do a complete unit, so I'm going to break it up into lessons and divide it up so that it would better work for me and my schedule. And I love the flexibility of doing that. So in August, I might decide that I'm going to teach lessons 1 through 3 that all deal with types of communities, exploring communities, types of communities, and people and places in communities. And then I'm going to have to take a break from that unit. And I have some other things that I need to do in September and October. And then in November, I'm going to go back and revisit Unit 1 and teach Lesson 4 on our community's history. So I love the flexibility here of being able to separate the unit up for ease with planning and implementation so that it fits well within my schedule. So if we look at the Lesson 1, again, Exploring Communities, I say that the lesson is very user-friendly. When you look at your teacher's edition, it's very scripted if you need it and labeled so that you know what your objectives are. You know if you have any new vocabulary that needs to be discussed prior to beginning your activities. You know the supplies that you need from the cart or additional supplies that you may have to ask for using that family ladder. Each section is clearly labeled and gives you ideas from beginning, the getting started section, all the way to the end, the summarizing and assessing. So it clearly shows you for each lesson, when you look at it, that they're designed to take about 15 to 20 minutes. So if I am completing activities A, B, and C under my Lesson 1, I know that that's probably going to take me 45 minutes to an hour. So I'm going to choose the activities to complete in one day or over the course of several days, depending on my schedule and the amount of time that I have. So what I love about that is each lesson has its own overview to guide your instruction, and each lesson has its own list of objectives. So if I'm looking at the community and I want to extend the lesson, so maybe I have additional time or my students really enjoyed and were engaged in it and I wanted to go a little bit further. Well, within your teacher's edition, you can see that there is a section for additional cross-curricular activities at the end of each lesson, and it's labeled Extending. And this will allow you to choose the activities that best fit your teaching style and will meet the needs of your students. So these cross-curricular components will allow you to teach these concepts during your reading or math or art and science so that you can integrate social studies into different subjects throughout the day instead of just having to teach in an isolated social studies skilled time. So teach social studies at a time and when it works for you and your schedule. So these are just some additional activities that you could choose under communities. Maybe during art, make a model of a community using boxes and cartons. During your reading time or read aloud, read City Mouse, Country Mouse, and compare and contrast different communities. Okay. A continuation during social studies, locate safe places using the desk and the wall maps. For art, take a walk around the community and look for safety signs that you encounter on your walk. For critical thinking, list community workers and use your Atlas photos as a model to help you list the community workers and what their job responsibilities are. For language arts, role play community helpers in small groups. So just a lot of activities, a plethora for you to pick and choose the ones that work best for you and the way that you like to teach and the learning styles of your students. Now at the end of your lesson, you will find lesson activity sheets, and I like that they're included right there in your teacher's edition, right there after your lesson, so that you don't have to get out a separate book or go look for the activity. It's right there for you, and you just have to run it off, and that's easy to do. So it's there for you to use if you need. It could be used as a whole group or completed independently if you needed to take a grade. So they're located in the teacher's guide again, and not each lesson also has its own assessment that can be used to determine if your students have grasped the objectives that you taught or if you need additional help and support. And they're usually informal, but flexibility there can easily be changed for you. If you need a more formal assessment, then you can just type those questions and have the students answer them independently. So an example of that might be an informal assessment at the end of the communities unit. You just want to do a quick thumbs up, thumbs down, ask questions such as, do farm communities have any city bus lines? And you can quickly see which students are getting it or not getting it just from the thumbs up, thumbs down, and what areas you might want to go back and reinforce. If you prefer grades, then just type those questions up, print them out, and your students can answer them, and you can get a more formal grade. But I like that they're provided after each lesson for you. There's also a section at the end after the assessment, another box, very easy to read, and it is called the Review, Reinforce, and Reflect box, and it gives you just additional ideas to review the lesson objective. So an idea of one at the end of the communities unit. I went walking in the community and went to a place beginning with S. Have students take turns naming locations in their community that begin with an S until someone comes up with the location that you were speaking of, and then let that student choose the next letter and the next location. Another great way that you can use your desk maps for that or your wall maps. So some great ideas just to continue that learning process. The unit assessment is found at the end of each unit. So after you've covered all the lessons, then you are ready for the unit assessment. And they're scripted, again, for ease of use for you. So it's a great tool to use when you are establishing your small groups. The students who have not mastered the skills may need additional small group assistance to help develop that concept a little bit more and pull in those cross-curricular activities or those review activities. And the students who have mastered may be able to use the EWW student materials in independent activities such as center time or partner activities. Additional assessment options might include using your desk maps, your globes, or your models to complete teacher-directed tasks, such as using the water-soluble markers, put a C on a way to communicate, or put a T on a place related to transportation. So all of these are just ways that you continue your ongoing assessment. Another activity that I love in your teacher's guide is using portfolios, and I always kept these for my students. They were just a great resource to have on hand when you were having conferences or going to IEP meetings, or you just wanted to keep your parents or your students informed. So I would just get file folders, label one with each student's name, and as they complete the activity sheets from each lesson, their lesson assessments and unit tests, just put those in there and you have them for documentation. They can be sent home weekly and viewed by the parents and signed. And this just is a great way for your students to stay up to date on what your parents to stay up to date on what their students are working on, because there are a lot of hands-on connections with EWW. They may not see a lot of paperwork coming home, and they want to know what exactly is my child doing. So it's a great way if you send it home weekly, they can see, and they can also see an area maybe their child needs additional assistance on. But I really like the portfolios and how they are used for my students. Another resource that you will find is that EWW website, and that's www.ewwnet.com. There are lots of additional resources for each unit there, more on the holidays, literature links, outline maps, graphic organizers, monthly calendars, more maps, professional development such as this, and others to help keep you up to date on educational trends and professional organizations and publications. You'll also find Spanish translations of letters to families, activity sheets, and assessments. So another great resource that you can use, just allowing you more flexibility for using EWW to make it work for you. So I hope right now you're all saying EWW works for me, and see how beneficial that it is to every teacher in every classroom. The supplies and the student materials are just amazing. You get to choose the lessons and units that work for you and able to integrate those into your existing curriculum without having to change what you already do, just to enhance or enrich what you are teaching in social studies. So again, just let me remind you, hands-on learning equals minds-on learning, and I just hope that you are enjoying using EWW and will continue to do so. I've enjoyed speaking with you and sharing EWW with you, and I hope you're loving it as much as I do.